welcome to my channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical insights, and I focus on both relationship and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to see more content from me, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel. Also consider clicking the notifications bell if you want to see when I will post a new video. Also, if you are interested in a private reading, I do readings in astrology on a variety of topics ranging from relationship readings to career to transits for 2-3 years, or solar return charts or predictions for 1 year, etc. You are free to email me at the email address that I will leave in the video description, and I can send you a pricing list and reading options and any other details that you might require. Also, I want to mention that I have started membership options on this channel, and the short of it, just to give you the short perks that you will get if you choose to join the membership section, you will get 1 extra video per month for each membership stage or tier. So for the first tier, you will get 1 extra video per month. For the second tier, you will get 2 extra videos per month, so you will have access to level 1 and level 2 videos. And for level 3 or third tier, you will get 3 extra videos per month. The level 1 and level 3 videos are going to be on a variety of topics, so basically anything related to astrology, but it will be content that is not shown on my regular usual videos, right? So this is members only exclusive content, and it can range from, tips and tricks on how to read a horoscope to, I haven't done this yet, but I plan on doing maybe members only astrological synastry for famous couples, for instance, or the analysis of famous people's horoscopes, but then I can also get into divisional charts, etc., etc. So all kinds of things. The level 1 or second tier of membership options is especially related to synastry astrology topics, meaning relationship-oriented astrology. So this could be things like how to discover which kind of partner archetype is right for you according to your horoscope, or it could be, again, different characteristics, whether you're going to have a good marriage according to your horoscope or a less than stellar marriage. But you can find more concrete examples in the lists that you will find in the video description, because I have added the playlists where you can already see all the videos that I have posted in each members section. So yeah, you can see what videos you will have access to from the ones that I have already done. But I will continue to post, like I said, 1 extra video per month for each level of membership. And in addition to that, in the members only section, you will have access to members only polls, and you will also have priority when it comes to getting your comments replied to on my channel. And you will also have stickers that basically show up next to your username that show that you are a member, and a couple of exclusive emojis. All right, so that's pretty much all the perks that you can have as a member on my channel. If you're curious, you can check the video description for more details as well, or you can click the join button under any of my videos to also see the prices, because the prices will be shown in your local currency. All right, in addition to the members only section, I also have a tarot channel, and I post there semi-regularly, and I will be linking the tarot channel in the video description as well as in the pinned comment. It's called Martine's Tarot. So if you are curious about tarot, if you're into it, maybe check out my channel, maybe subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening to this intro. And now I'm going to get straight into today's topic. Hello, welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video from me. So today's topic is going to be on something connected to the Upapada Lagna. I'm not going to get too in depth with the concept of Upapada Lagna. For those of you who are interested, I am going to be linking a video in the video description that I did a while ago about the Upapada Lagna, and I went way more in depth there. I think I may have mentioned this simple concept that I want to talk about in this video before, but I haven't really emphasized it too much, and I haven't focused on it in particular. I may have, just mentioned it in a passing way. So I wanted to do a video particularly about this topic because it does seem to show up a lot in synastry that I look at. Not so much in synastry of famous people, actually. So I have done just a little bit of research to try to find some famous couples to illustrate, to illustrate these combinations with examples. And I think I found like maybe 2. I'm going to show them at the end. So I'm going to talk about them at the end when I get to the examples. But without loitering around too much, so the main thing that I want to say about how to read Upapada Lagna in synastry. So it's comparing the Upapada Lagna to another person, a potential partner's Lagna, versus what happens when you compare them to another person's Arudha Lagna, right? Again, I have talked about Arudha Lagna before in many videos, and if you want to find out more about it, I will be linking the related videos that I did about this in the video description. But the short of it is, for those of you who maybe don't know anything about these concepts, so the Lagna is the ascendant. Lagna literally means ascendant. Upapada Lagna, right, is the ascendant that shows the spouse archetype. So based on the Upapada Lagna, we create a chart, and all of the planets in your natal chart will fall in a certain house with respect to that Upapada Lagna sign, right? So the Upapada Lagna actually shows the spouse archetype. It's like a detailed horoscope that talks about the kind of person you are meant to marry, or, the kind of person that you are meant to have long-term romantic relationships with. It's also important to look at the Upapada when you are analyzing second marriage, third marriage, etc., things like that. So this is what it's generally used for, right? And it's derived from the 12th house sign because it's connected to the idea that marriage is a spiritual connection, a spiritual bond. Aside from that, though, the Arudha Lagna, by contrast, is calculated, based on the ascendant and the ascendant lord. And again, you will see this in the videos that I post in the video description. There are detailed everything about it, right? I've done a lot of videos about Arudha Lagna, and like I said, I've also done a in-depth video about Upapada Lagna with examples and everything, so you can go and check those out if you want to find out more details. But the Arudha Lagna, very briefly, is how other people perceive you. So in a way, it's actually a false image, so to speak. It's not an image that the person purposefully cultivates. It's not something that a person consciously creates in order to deceive others. It's simply the way that other people project on any given individual, right? What people tend to project on others is seen based on this Arudha Lagna, right? And I could give you a million examples, but again, you can find out more details in all the other videos that I'm going to be linking in the description. But just to give an example, right, if a person has a lot of malefics in the Arudha Lagna, so let's say if a person has Mars in the Arudha Lagna, people will tend to project on this person and qualities such as selfishness, arrogance, ambition, ruthlessness to some extent, right? Because the Mars energy is a very rough, non-cooperative, non-diplomatic sort of energy. I've also talked about this in the Arudha Lagna videos that I've done extensively, that if you look at the horoscopes of politicians, they generally, the most successful politicians actually, and especially the ones who are left-leaning and are very successful, tend to not have malefic planets in the Arudha Lagna. In fact, I don't think I have seen a single successful left-leaning politician that has a malefic in the Arudha Lagna, they all tend to have either no planets at all, or they have benefics in the Arudha Lagna, which makes them seem non-threatening, right? Which makes them very, well, good at deception, basically. Not to say, by the way, that it's just with the left-leaning. The right-leaning politicians can also deceive people in various ways. So Donald Trump, for instance, has malefics in the 7th house from the Arudha Lagna. And I've talked about this more in depth, that basically there are certain houses in the Arudha Lagna chart that if they have malefics in them, people tend to mistrust you, or people tend to see you as a very polarizing individual, because you have a pretty much a very powerful aura where people just can't ignore you. They either love you or hate you, right? So especially if you have malefics in the 1st, the 3rd, or the 7th from the Arudha Lagna, people will tend to project negative qualities on you. But anyway, let me not digress too much. The bottom line is that the Arudha Lagna is a planet of, it's a point of illusion, right? It's basically how people deceive themselves with respect to who you really are, right? By projecting on you. And what this shows is, what I have seen, is that if a person has their Upapada Lagna conjunct or trine the Arudha Lagna, this produces a very strong attraction from the part of the Upapada Lagna person, but it's not based in something solid, because again, the Arudha Lagna is an illusion, right? So when you relate to a person, or when you see a person's Arudha Lagna, and most of us, unless we are extremely self-aware, when we see people for the first time, we tend to notice their Arudha Lagna, right? So those are the main energies that are going to stand out. Those are the main things that we tend to project on them. And the problem is, understandably, that when your Upapada Lagna is conjunct or trine, the trine is almost equally powerful, the other person's Arudha Lagna, it means that you're in love with your own projections on them, right? So let's say you meet someone who has Arudha Lagna in Aries, and your Upapada Lagna is in Aries, right? That's a conjunction. So you're going to see this person as a very Aries type of archetype, right? So you're going to look at them and think that they're ambitious, that they are driven, energetic. If this is a man, you're going to project that they're very masculine, very ready to pick a fight, non-diplomatic, very no nonsense, right? Even someone who might do well in the military, police, etc., etc. But that is just an illusion to a large extent. Now, whether this person actually has those characteristics, you would have to check that from the rest of the horoscope, especially from the Lagna chart, right? But if they just have like an Arudha Lagna, and by the way, the Arudha Lagna and the Lagna are never going to be the same sign. They're also never going to be opposite signs either. That's why there are exceptions to how to calculate Arudha Lagna, right? Anyway, won't get too much into that. You can find out more about that in the general video that I have done about how to calculate it and all that. But the bottom line is, when you have a conjunction between Upapada and Arudha, it's falling in love with an illusion. And that basically means when you look at synastry interactions, these relationships tend not to last long. Unless, of course, there is some exception where they have a lot of solid synastry connections that basically offset the negative impact of this. But for the most part, as far as I see, it's not. It's not particularly conducive to a healthy relationship in the long run. And same thing with trines, right? So a trine would be, let's say your Upapada Lagna is in Aries. Sorry, not in Aries. Let's say it's in Sagittarius, right? Or in Leo. Those are the other two signs that create a trine with Aries. So that means that, if you come across, so let's say your Upapada Lagna is a Sagittarius, you come across someone who has a Arudha Lagna in Leo or Aries, right, you are gonna tend to find them attractive. It might even be immediate because the kind of energy that they project is very much in line with what you are looking for from a potential romantic partner. Now, on the other hand, if the conjunction happens between a person's Upapada Lagna and the other person's Lagna, it's actually a very strong sign of compatibility, and it tends to lend itself to successful long-term romantic relationships. Of course, this is all being said, bearing in mind the fact that these are just one aspect, right? It's just one configuration to check in terms of how compatible you are with someone. It does not offset all the other things that have to be checked in order to see whether you're compatible, right? There are loads of aspects in synastry that have to be looked at, and you have to look at the overall synastry to see what rate of success this relationship has overall. But these things are also important to check, right? Especially in the early phases of dating, right? When, let's say, you meet someone and you find yourself overwhelmingly attracted to them, it's worth it to look at their horoscope and see whether they, I don't know, maybe it's just you falling in love with a projection that you are making on this person instead of actually falling for the person, you know what I mean? Yeah. And yeah, this is pretty much the theory. It's very straight to the point. I have looked at some horoscopes of famous couples, but I had a really hard time to, had a hard time finding a lot of examples. I have seen this happening a lot, really, in real life, like with synastry horoscopes that I have checked and people that I have known. So I have seen it both in the positive, both in the negative. So both where the Upapada Lagna is conjunct another person's ascendant, or when the Upapada Lagna is conjunct another person's Arudha Lagna. Right, so when I say ascendant, Lagna, it's the same thing. It's interchangeable. Anyway, so one famous example that I came across, let me see. Yeah, so Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh. It's interesting because in their case, they actually have both of these aspects. So they have a connection between Upapada Lagna and also Upapada Lagna and Arudha Lagna. But I think it's really telling that it's his Upapada Lagna conjunct her Arudha Lagna, right? Both of them in Leo. So this basically means that, from his side, Vivien Leigh looked like the ideal romantic partner because, his Upapada Lagna, that's his spouse archetype, is conjunct her Arudha Lagna, which is actually, like I said, it's more of a outer persona. On the other hand, his Upapada Lagna is also trine her actual Lagna. Right, so her Lagna was in Aries. So there's also a trine there between his Upapada Lagna in Leo and her Lagna in Aries, right? So this is also showing a decent amount of compatibility, but the attraction is most strong between his Upapada and her Arudha Lagna, not her Lagna, if you're following me, right? So basically, he was more drawn to something or more in love with something that was rather an outer shell or an image or rather his own projections onto her, not so much the actual person, right? There's still some compatibility with the actual person, but not as strong. Now, from her side, really, there's no connection to his either Lagna or Arudha Lagna. Neither the conjunction nor the trine, I mean. So it's not important from her side to his side. Another example that is perhaps just as telling is Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt. So this is really comical because I looked at Jennifer Aniston. I also looked at Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, right? Well, comical, not so much. It depends on how you look at it. The truth is that between Brad Pitt and Angelina, there are no solid aspects either way, right? So there's no conjunction, no trine between either one of their Upapada Lagnas and the other one's Lagna or Arudha Lagna. On the other hand, if you look at Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt, her Upapada Lagna in Taurus is trine his Arudha Lagna in Capricorn. Doesn't form a strong aspect to his Lagna. From his side, there's no connection. So from his Upapada Lagna to her Lagna versus her Arudha Lagna, there's no significant aspect there. So from her side, though, her Upapada Lagna, which again is the spouse archetype, right? The kind of person that you would think is an ideal partner, is trine his Arudha Lagna, right? Which again is the outer shell. It's the persona of the person, not the real person, so to speak. So again, basically, in other words, she deceived herself about what his true nature was and fell in love with an image. Most likely. Okay, so just by looking at this, okay, even ignoring the rest of the synastry and what else is going on there, because the funny thing is, I do remember looking at their synastry at least a little bit. I don't think I have actually done them as a famous couple relationship analysis video. If you're interested in seeing this, by the way, please comment in the comment section, but I don't remember doing the compatibility between Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt. I don't remember. Maybe I did. I don't know. Or maybe I talked about it like in some other videos as an example for something, but not looked at it in depth. Anyway, even without looking at the rest of their synastry, because as far as I remember, because I did look at their synastry at some point, there were no strong synastry aspects between them. Not really. It kind of makes sense that this may have been a strong glue between the two of them, right? The fact that she has her Upapada in trine to his Arudha Lagna, right? And maybe idealized him in the relationship. Another famous couple that I looked at was Nicole Kidman versus Tom Cruise. And Nicole Kidman versus Keith Urban, her current husband, that she also has kids with, right? Biological kids, I mean, because she also had adopted kids with Tom Cruise. So, looking at Nicole Kidman versus Tom Cruise, her Upapada Lagna is in Sagittarius. So, it's not conjunct or trine either his Lagna or his Arudha Lagna. From his side, though, his Upapada Lagna is in Gemini, and it's trine her Lagna. Okay? That's it. That's the only strong aspect here. Now, technically, this would actually mean that, you know, they had some basic compatibility. Of course, it doesn't mean that just because the relationship ended, there was nothing good to it. I think most people kind of know why it ended, because Tom Cruise went off his rocker, but whatever, let's not get into that. The bottom line is that they did have some basic compatibility. So his Upapada Lagna conjunct her Lagna actually showed that her nature, her personality, and her path in life is compatible to his spouse archetype, right? The kind of person that he would like as a partner, a romantic partner. But whatever else was going on, obviously, was stronger or strong enough to break the relationship because it wasn't enough to keep them going. If you look at her chart, so Nicole Kidman's chart versus Keith Urban's chart, the funny thing is, or not so funny, is actually that there are no strong aspects. What is more interesting in a way, maybe this would be worth looking into separately, is that Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, they have trine Upapada Lagnas, right? So she has her Upapada in Sagittarius, he has his Upapada in Leo. And they also have Arudha Lagna in trine, although I wouldn't say that counts for any kind of a compatibility. But most importantly, they also have their Lagnas in trine, so I'm sure that that adds to something. But there is no connection between their Upapadas or Lagnas, Arudha Lagnas, basically, right? So it's interesting that she had it with Tom Cruise, which would have shown good compatibility, but not with Keith Urban. This is an example where I guess it goes in line with what I said in the beginning, that it is important to look at, but it's not the only aspect to look at, definitely, in synastry, because, of course, you could have this, but if you don't have solid connections in other places in the horoscope, right, that would show long-term compatibility and mutual commitment and all that, it's not going to count for much. It is still interesting to look at, especially, like I said, in the early phases of dating. If you find yourself suddenly very attracted to someone, yeah, it's worth checking on whether you have your Upapada Lagna conjunct their Arudha Lagna, or trine their Arudha Lagna, just to be careful not to, not to fall in love with your own projections and see this person through rose-colored glasses before you get to know them. Okay, this has been pretty much it. I hope you will enjoy this video as usual, and of course feel free to comment in the comment section with any thoughts you have on this topic, maybe examples that you have from personal experiences. It would help a lot. Also, again, if you would be interested in becoming a member, you can check out more information about that in the introductory part of this video. You can also click on the join button under any video to see the prices for the membership tiers in your local currency. If you're interested in a private reading, I do readings on a wide variety of topics. You can check out the email address that I have left in the video description, so you can email me at that email address and I can send you a pricing list and other details about what a reading entails. And last but not least, I have a tarot channel, which is called Martine's Tarot. I will also link it in the video description. So if you're curious about tarot, go ahead and check it out. Maybe subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you at my next video. Bye.